Our next author is Doug Henderson. Doug was nominated by Elizabeth Bernstein, who is a writer, the editor of the Big Ugly Review, and a teacher at the San Francisco Writers Grotto. And Doug was one of her most outstanding students. He's been a student at the Grotto for about a year when he joined USF's Master of Fine Arts program. He used to publish a magazine, a zine, called Nito. And Maximum Rock and Roll said, it was so cool, you want to find the people who make it and eat their brains to gain their zine-making powers. I love a good blurb. Doug likes a clean, simple, funny narrative voice and worries that he's constantly rewriting The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. He's working on a novel, the Cleveland Heights LGBT Sci-Fi and Fantasy Role-Playing Club, and he started writing it when he was in Stockholm. I love that kind of tidbit. Tonight, however, he will read a short story, Advice for Children of Non-Human Parents. It's about a young guy raised by bears who goes to a convention for people raised by animals. Doug Henderson.
Hi, thanks for coming. Check, check. Like it's a what? Can you hear me, Cleveland? Okay. Okay. So my boyfriend made this clipboard with a light for me. It's awesome. Right, so this is a bit from Advice for Children of Non-Human Parents. When I tell people I was left in a cave in Yellowstone National Park and raised by bears, they say, "You don't look like it." But it's true. For those few formative months, the bears fed and protected me and treated me like one of their own. My discovery, one stormy night, by park rangers who dashed into our cave for shelter, made all the papers and the evening news. It's a part of my history that can't be denied. Steve caught my eye early in the convention, with his big beard and red Hawaiian shirt, chest hair spilling out the open collar. I'd heard from other wildlings that he was raised by dolphins. Dolphins? Come on. Wolves? Sure. Bears? Obviously. But dolphins? I had to meet this guy. Steve was lounging next to the lobby fountain when I introduced myself. He had a big smile, a deep chuckle, and a strong handshake. When I told him I was raised by bears, he said, "Cool." So I liked him immediately. He opened the manila folder and showed me his articles and photos. There he was, as a baby, floating in a ring of bottlenose dolphins. And these are the fishermen who found me, a group of men on a pier, all smiling proud, holding up a baby, the biggest catch of the day. His birth parents had never been found and were presumed dead, perhaps drowned. Or it could have been that he was abandoned, as I was, only instead of being left to the wilds of the forest, he'd been thrown into the sea. "I get it," I said. "I know what that's like." I looked up into his eyes, and I could feel a connection. He invited me to dinner to talk some more, so I met him at the steakhouse across the street. He opened the door for me when we went in. Over steaks and baked potatoes, he told me about his last boyfriend, and I told him about mine, Artie, how we weren't getting along, how we'd fought about the Wildling Convention. He thought I was nuts for coming here, I said. He actually called me a freak. That's how bad it got. As if all the stuff with the cave and the bears was something I could forget. The way you forget the first house you grew up in, or your preschool teacher. I was blabbering. Steve had such a nice smile, and he kept pulling at the hair in his open shirt collar, which was distracting in the best way. Am I making any sense? "You are to me," he said. I didn't go into it with Steve, but calling me a freak was just the latest sign that things with Artie were coming to an end. You know how sometimes you shake a guy's hand and he gives you the dead fish, a hand that's limp and weak? He doesn't squeeze back with any kind of pressure. Artie gave the blowjob equivalent. I wouldn't even know it was happening if I didn't look down and see it. He didn't even make any noise. I had to remind him to. It was creepy. There's only so many times over the course of a relationship that you can say, "I don't feel anything yet," before you give up and just endure it and get yourself off later. Steve stepped away to use the restroom and my phone began buzzing in my pocket. It was Artie. Of course he would call now. What? I said. I'm in the middle of dinner. Geez, I miss you too. I just wanted to tell you I saw your convention on the news. Awesome, I said, but I didn't really think it was awesome. I just wanted to get off the phone before Steve came back. I shouldn't have picked up to begin with. This is what happens when the bear takes over. I get stuck in stupid situations. I can't talk right now. Let's talk when I get home. When you get home? That's in like 2 days. I know, and there's some stuff we need to talk about. What stuff? I could hear him closing the refrigerator door and his mom talking in the background. I don't know, Artie, stuff I've been thinking about, important stuff. I didn't want to go into details now. Steve might be back any second. Oh my God, are you breaking up with me? His mom was suddenly quiet. Artie, let's talk about it later. I don't want to wait. Just tell me now, are you? Was I? Was that what I was planning? There was no point in delaying when I knew the inevitable answer. Yes, I said. I guess so. Are you fucking kidding me right now over the phone? You're such an asshole. I heard his mom asking who he was talking to. A fucking asshole. Then silence. He hung up on me. I stared at the phone until the screen went black. When Steve returned, I tried to finish my baked potato like nothing had happened, but I must have had a strange look on my face because he asked, "Is everything all right?" Totally, I said, smiling, but my guts were in a knot. He asked me if I wanted to go back up to his room, and I said, "Sure, that sounds great." But I could hear Artie's voice in my ear. "You're a fucking asshole." We walked past the hotel pool on our way to Steve's room. "How about a swim first?" he asked. "Are you serious? I don't have any trunks." "Then don't wear any." I looked at the pool. It was empty and still. The full moon reflected on its surface. I felt a chill in the air. "Come on," he said. "No one's watching." He took off his shirt, freeing his broad chest one button at a time before he slipped off his pants. God, he was muscled and hairy. "All right," I said, "let's do it." I was naked in no time. Steve pinned me against the side of the pool as we bobbed up and down, his hairy body wet and matted. The water was warm, but my teeth were chattering. If he noticed, he didn't say anything. He pressed his bearded chin against my cheek and nuzzled my ear, and then we were kissing. My eyes were closed but filled with white light. My heart was pounding so loudly, I barely understood when he said, "Watch this," and sank under. I saw his dark shape swim along the bottom, and then he came up and burst out of the water into the air. His toes rose above the surface and soared over the pool. He arched forward and head first, he dove back down again. There was hardly any splash. "That was incredible," I said. He jumped over and over. Sometimes he'd arch backwards, tilting his beard towards the stars. Sometimes he'd fall onto his side, and a big splash would hit me in the face. It's hard for a bear to watch a fish jump out of the water and not want to gobble it up. But I wasn't really a bear, and dolphins aren't really fish. So I ran to the hotel gym, and I grabbed the hula hoop I'd seen earlier. I leaned over the pool and held out the hoop. He jumped through it, no problem. I stood on the diving board and held the hoop up higher. He jumped straight up through it, rising up in front of me. First his bearded face, then his hairy chest, then his stomach. His slick, hairy skin slid against my knuckles. He arched back and dove away before I could think about what I saw, but I was pretty sure it was uncircumcised. I held out the hoop again to get a second glance. He jumped until my arms were tired and I tossed the hoop aside, but he kept on jumping. Only he wasn't jumping for me anymore. He was jumping for the joy of it, for the freedom of it. His arching body silhouetted by the full moon. He wasn't weighed down by his size or all that hair. He wasn't weighed down by anything. It gave me the biggest erection of my whole entire life. Thanks. Have a good night.
Doug Henderson.